Wonderful. Oh, welcome everyone. It is so wonderful to see you, to be with you, to share time, to share this evening with you. We're going to begin with a piece of music from an amazing group called the Soweto Gospel Choir. And during the first minute or so of the music, if you would just take the opportunity to look at the faces of everyone who is here with you this evening in this space. Allow yourself to really drink in the beauty of spiritual community, the beauty of spiritual friendship, or the possibility of new spiritual friendships. And then after doing that for a minute or so, just let yourself relax and allow the music to wash over you.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. Don't trouble the water. Give it up. Why don't you let it be? Let it be. Still water runs deep. Yes, it do. Oh, yeah. When you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so high, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness comes and pain is all around, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Oh, like a bridge over troubled water. I'm gonna lay me down. Don't trouble the water. Give it up. Why don't you let it be? You gotta let it be still. Still water runs deep. Yes, it do. Oh, yeah. Sail on, silver girl. Sail on by. Your time has come.
I don't really know that we need to say another word to cover our theme for the evening, which is spiritual friendship, a sacred, sacred practice. Um, one of the most satisfying parts for me of directing the seminary and being the spiritual director of the organization for so many years has always been the chance to witness the deep and lasting friendships and relationships that develop, that deepen, and that nourish people through the 2-year experience of preparation. I would often think about people who became really dear, dear friends who would literally never have met, never been a part of each other's lives had they not come together in spiritual community. And I was thinking that the way that we start our first year of seminary with the exercise, I am here to be seen, and I see you. I am here to be seen in the fullness of my humanity, my quirks, my shortcomings, my irritating qualities, as well as my good qualities and my strengths. And I'm here to be seen in my divinity, in the deepest essence and truth of who I am. And the willingness to offer ourselves in that openness and vulnerability. And the willingness to see the other in that light, to see all of that, provides such a powerful and strong foundation for spiritual friendship, which is a relationship that recognizes and holds us in our humanity and celebrates and encourages us in our highest potential and our deepest truth. In the Pali canon of Buddhism, the disciple Ananda went to the Buddha and said, wouldn't it be true to say that fully half of the spiritual life is good spiritual friendship? And the Buddha's response was, no, it wouldn't be correct to say that. It would be correct to say that the whole of the spiritual life is good spiritual friendship. So even though we don't often talk about spiritual friendship as a sacred practice, in fact it is. And for any of us who are in positions of spiritual caregiving, positions of spiritual leadership, positions of spiritual influence on others, it's probably one of, if not the most essential practice for keeping us steady, helping to make sure that we stay nourished, keeping us humble, and keeping us true. I'm going to share just a couple of quotes on spiritual friendship that I've come across in the last few weeks preparing for tonight. And then I'm going to turn this over to my dear friend, Robin. There's a beautiful book by a woman named Gunilla Norris, a book called Sheltered in the Heart, in which she writes about, she calls them deep friendships. And they are, I think, what we all would mean by spiritual friendships. She writes, to have a deep friend is daring, creative, transformative, and humbling. It requires focus, dedication, self-giving, and two conscious people attending to the movement of love in the depth of their being. In other words, it is a spiritual matter. Casual friends are people we care about, enjoy, and do things with. We may have many interests in common with such friends. This is true of deeper friendships too. But in my experience, these deeper friendships have another dimension. They ask us to develop our essence and to grow spiritually. That is something an ordinary friendship might not ask of us. Sometimes it is possible to be with another person without our usual protective layers. We can be natural in a creature-to-creature way. This is a bit like walking in a wood and suddenly coming upon a deer in the glade. Our eyes meet, our ears prick up. We are exquisitely alert. A special kind of recognition happens when the deer does not run away, is not frightened, but stays of its own accord on its own business, trusting us and itself to be safe. We feel given to and somehow enlarged. Our natural innocence becomes real. Together, we are brought into the purity of simple being. In this light, we are lifted and illumined. When two people can be innocent with one another in this way, it is support of a special kind. It allows us to remember that there is within us at the very core a sheer and wild perfection. As deep friends, we shelter the transparent beauty we each are. We protect and value one another in the way an endangered species is valued and protected. In recognizing the sheer and wild perfection in one another, we understand each other as holy and free. How many of you recognize that quality of connection with another person, that quality of relationship? Yeah, it's one of the most precious, precious gifts of our lives, isn't it? One of the things that's so interesting about that quality of freedom in spiritual friendships is that often they're not day-to-day friendships. often there may be weeks or months or sometimes even years that go by where we're not in contact. And yet somehow, when we reconnect, not only is it as if no time has passed, but often we discover that our trajectories of spiritual growth, our paths have been in parallel all that time. And we're able to pick up right where we left off. I'm very delighted that this evening I get to share the evening with one of my dear spiritual friends, Robin Lane. Robin is truly one of the wise women in my life. Robin and I go back to 2001, I think, 20 years.
The Saturday before 9/11.
The Saturday before 9/11 in 2001. Robin was, along with Rev. Leslie Martin, who is on the call as well, part of the very first graduating class of One Spirit, the class of 2003. And Robin also was one of the deans of the second year at One Spirit, as well as being part of the faculty and supervisory staff of the inner spiritual counseling training. As a dean, and Susan, I'm sorry, David, I'm sorry, but Robin holds the record for the number of students who refer to her as their forever dean. So that tells you something about about Robin's quality of being. And I'm just delighted to have her here to share with you this evening. Robin.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diane. So wonderful to be with all of you tonight. And like Diane mentioned, we had so much fun looking for quotes to offer you this evening on spiritual friendship. And one of my very favorites, and I sort of chose that, well, it is definitely one of my favorites, and I also chose it in honor of my dear beloved spiritual friend, Martha Doing. This is a quote by James Baldwin. Love takes off the masks we fear we cannot live without, and know we cannot live within. Love takes off the masks we fear we cannot live without, and know we cannot live within. Spiritual friends offer us the space to reveal ourselves, the very loving space to take off our masks and be who we truly are, to share our stories with each other. Now, some of you who are looking at me know that I'm a very private person, and it's not easy for me to reveal myself. But I did reveal myself to Diane about a month ago. And, you know, like many of you who have been ordained and graduated from seminary or ISC, it's like when we're out of One Spirit, the question is, what now? Where's my tribe? Where am I connected? Once we leave the sacred container of the One Spirit structure, there's a huge adjustment. And honestly, it even happens to deans. As Diane mentioned, I started in One Spirit in 2001. And my last class was the extraordinary class of 2020. Of course, I feel that every class that I worked in was an extraordinary class. But what happened, and some of it was the COVID isolation, I began, when I left in June of 2020, I gradually started to feel very disconnected, very on the outside, asked myself, where's my tribe? Who are my friends? Where's One Spirit? I sort of felt disappeared into the One Spirit ethers. So I took a risk and I shared it with my dear friend Diane, and one of our, we catch up maybe every 6 weeks or so, I would say, Diane. And I told Diane that I was feeling disconnected, and it was not easy to share that because, as I say, it's not easy for me to reveal myself. So what did Diane do? She said, would you like to do a gathering with me? And of course I said, I don't know. Give me a couple of days. You know, once we isolate, and once, you know, it's in part of my nature to be a recluse anyway. So, you know, but of course, within a day, I knew it was astounding. It was just a resounding yes. So here we are. And what happened was, as I began to think about all of you and what I wanted to offer to all of you, and looking for quotes and discerning what would be meaningful and what could benefit all of you, I realized I was already feeling very connected. You know, I was no longer immersed in my own isolation. It was about serving you and giving to you. And Diane, I know I've told you this so many times. I'm so grateful to you. So I was recently reading a novel, it was several months ago actually, and there was a conversation that went on between the mother and daughter. And the mother said, I am so, so lonely. And the daughter said, Mom, you're lonely because you're not known. You're lonely because you're not known. And I believe that that line changed me. That line changed me. It made me realize the importance of allowing myself to be known and to connect deeply with another heart and another soul. So I feel that spiritual friends demonstrate curiosity in each other's expansion, in each other's contraction, in each other's vulnerability. We beckon each other forth on our spiritual paths, share spiritual insights, share spiritual practice, and even share our awkward spiritual moments and vulnerabilities. And when I had my first breast cancer diagnosis in 2011, I remember feeling very lost. You know, it was very scary at first. And some of you were in the class, went through this with me at that time. But I remember calling Diane one night, my spiritual friend, and saying, Diane, I feel lost. God is not with me. I don't feel connected to God. And Diane said, I understand that you would feel that way, but God is there. And I allowed myself to be prayed in that moment. And I borrowed Diane's faith, and I can't tell you how much it helped me. And from that time, that was 2010, 2011, I've shared that with many of the people that I've counseled, some of my clients, when it's come up and there's been a need, I've shared that story. And I can't tell you how many people have been helped and healed by it. So I'm also going to take spiritual friendship to a little bit of a different reframe. For me, there are times that I will go out in a given day looking for a spiritual friend, a spiritual contact. I had an experience recently where I was on one of these sort of pandemic mobile banking lines. And it was a long line, and I saw behind me a gentleman pulled in with a big pickup truck, big cowboy hat, bumper stickers that I read. And I thought to myself, it was an immediate habitual response. I thought to myself, he and I don't see things the same. You know, it was just one of these habitual responses in my head based on the big truck, his bumper stickers, and the big cowboy hat. And I went back to sort of looking at my phone, and a couple of seconds later, there's a tap on my window, and I look over and it's him. And I like, you know, I was going to say roll down the window. That would really date me. I lowered the window and I said, yes. And he said, ma'am, you left your gas cap hanging out. Would you like me to fix it for you, ma'am? And I said, oh, yes, thank you. And he just got this big smile on his face, and he went to the side of my car and screwed in my gas cap, all the while sort of looking at me out of the corner of his eye, and I was like waving and thanking him. Then he got back in his truck, and we're like in the rearview mirror, I'm waving and waving out the window. We must have like had 5 greetings like that. And it was and in that moment, that man was my spiritual friend. And that man taught me that there's goodness and kindness in the world. And he also taught me that his actions didn't match my stereotyping. And that was a tremendous, tremendous gift. And I have to tell you, Eve, sweet Eve, I just got a message from Eve. I thought about that man. I still think about him and bless him and pray for him. And he was my spiritual friend that day. Because I think that, you know, one of the wonderful quotes Maya Angelou said, a friend may be waiting behind a stranger's face. And it's so important for all of us to remember that every time we walk out our door, especially during these times of isolation, where people are afraid of each other and don't even want to look at each other. It's so important to remember that, as Maya Angelou said, a friend may be waiting behind a stranger's face. So another one of my favorite quotes was one of Blessed Rumi quotes. Be grateful for whoever comes. They might be sent as a guide from beyond. And that's how I felt about this gentleman as well. And when you all go into your breakout groups, remember, be grateful for whoever comes. They may be sent as a guide from beyond. So it's important that we always remember, we always hold the highest good for our friends, for our spiritual friends. Even as Diane said, when they're going through the hardest times, when they're complaining, be present for the complaining, holding the container of wholeness and holiness for them. I have a spiritual friend. I won't mention her name because I didn't ask her permission to divulge this, but we're working together on not taking ourselves so personally. Holding each other in wholeness, in holiness, allowing the unfolding of who we are, allowing our humanness, but with always remembering who we are. It's an absolute privilege. It's an absolute privilege to be in a spiritual friendship with someone It holds us accountable. Once somebody opens their heart to us, we're accountable. It's almost like we can become each other's sacred keepers. And I have to tell you, like right now, I feel that about so many of you. I'm so touched and moved to be here with you. I miss you all who I haven't seen. And now for the moment, I'll turn it back to my spiritual friend, Diane.
Thank you, Robin. That was so moving. I think the only thing that I want to add is really to underscore what Robin was saying about our spiritual friends holding us in the light of our wholeness. Of course, for those of you who have done the training in spiritual counseling, that's what spiritual counselors, spiritual companions do. And in a sense, a spiritual friendship is where you are mutually each other's spiritual companions and spiritual counselors. No matter how long we've been on the path, no matter how much inner work we do, there will always still be times that we get hooked, that we get activated, that we react in ways that we wish we wouldn't, but we do. And to have a place where we can take that, to have a friend, in so many normal friendships in our world, people ally with each other around their pettiness. That often when we're upset with somebody, what we want to do is find allies who will agree with us and buck us up in our complaints and our hissiness and all of that. And that's a lot of what passes for friendship in the world. Our spiritual friends are people who can listen to us when we're in those places and know that that isn't where we want to stay. Know that isn't how we want to be in the world. And remember for us the love that's in us, the kindness that's in us, the compassion that's in us, the generosity of spirit that's in us, until we reconnect with that in ourselves. Again, especially if you are in any kind of spiritual leadership, any position of spiritual influence or spiritual caregiving, having someone who will hold that for you is not a luxury. It's an absolute necessity. And it makes for a lot of good laughs afterwards. So at this point, we're going to have you go into breakout groups. You'll be in groups of 3. And this is an opportunity for you either to share with the people in your group about your experience of spiritual friendship or what you may be longing for in the way of spiritual friendship. And then we'll come back together. So you'll have 4 minutes each, and David is going to send you invitations to join a breakout, and we'll see you back in a little more than 10 minutes. So, if it's okay, we're going to go a little bit over time tonight, because it's just such a joy to be together, and we have a great piece of music to close with, but we definitely want to hear from some of you about your breakouts, the conversations you just had. So 2, 3 people, something like that. Anyone want to share anything? Therese, can you raise your virtual hand so great. So we'll hear from Therese.
Hi. So I have to jump off in just a moment. I promised Gabrielle I would lead her meditation, but I just wanted to take this moment just to say thank you, Robin, dear, dear, dear Anam Cara. Robin's been such a dear love and support and kind person in my life. And we often go walking together in upstate New York by the Ashokan Reservoir. So Robin, thank you for your authenticity, your generosity of spirit, this profound kindness that you bestow. I just want to honor you, and I want to honor the unbelievable service. I know, the students in ISC, I'll speak for ISC, have been so touched by you and by your commitment and your wisdom and your love. So thank you for being you. And while I'm thanking, I want to say, Diane, love you. You have
Love you
been
too.
such a source of wisdom and love and depth, and I got to get your music list. So, thank you all. I'm gonna have to jump ship right now.
Thank you, Therese. Joan.
Hello. What touched me and what was important for me, and I do not recall exactly who said that, you, Diane, or Robin, is that the nature of this kind of spiritual friendships is also that you sometimes do not see each other for a long time. And if you see each other again, it's like you saw each other yesterday. And, I live in the Netherlands, and I see you, and I know there are a few of my closest deep spiritual friends now right on here too. And I only see you sometimes live when I'm in New York, or maybe sometimes when one of you is here. And I find that difficult. And sometimes people here say to me, you should also have these kind of friends here in the Netherlands. Why do you find it so far away? Well, it is an issue that I can think about, but because you said that, for me, it was important that, yeah, that is true. It is a nature that it's not necessary that you see each other all the time or often. And it grew out of that spiritual tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have that in New York, it's logical that I have them there and not so easily here. And that it's a different way of friendship that people here who are saying that to me is a different way of friendship that they mean than what I long for.
Mm.
And that was very important for me, that, oh yeah, like a coin fell into place.
Mm,
So that's, yeah, thanks.
thank you, Joan. Deb.
I was speaking about, because I do work from a church base, I thought all of the clergy was my spiritual friends. And then as I grow and learn, I find that that's not the case. So I was trying to put people into that category, and they not necessarily were that for me. And so I'm still learning, and I do have a few that I can call my spiritual friends, and those are the ones that I don't have to put a mask on, and I don't have to worry about how I look or how I sound, you know. And like you said, they are just this waiting. They're just waiting. And other ones, you know, when I went to them, they would try to fix it, try to critique me and all this other stuff, and you know, and didn't make me feel any better, you know. But the few that I recognize now, I'm grateful for. And like I said, I run into people, since I live right here by the ocean, I run into people every day I'm out there. Either they're fishing or they're picking up shells or seaweed or something. And it makes me feel good that I am able to connect and then let it go and enjoy our conversation and carry it with me all day.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, and I want to say as well that certainly I think you can reach a point in life where most, if not all, of your friendships have this kind of spiritual quality. But there will always, I believe, be just a few that are really the core of those relationships in your life. Gunilla Norris, who I was quoting from before, says, in a sense, it's too much of a responsibility to have more than a few. Yeah. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Susan, you had your hand up and you took it down. Can you put it back up so David can find you? There you go.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I didn't want to cause it to run over because sometimes I get talky, but this was truly a very interesting exercise. I know nothing about this group. I am here via an invitation to someone who is on this call that does. And I was put with two complete strangers who were absolutely lovely. And I believe they're still here on the call, Diane and Christine. And I guess I'm in another group where we're experiencing the same sort of synergy that is on this call tonight. Mm-hmm. And that group is slowly growing and now up to 8. We're scattered all over the country. And the connection we have, our dialogue is very organic. And the connection we have for that, it's now growing to 2 hours, is extraordinary and such a high that it carries us through to the next month. So I don't think there's any sort of definition for a spiritual friend. And I don't think there's any limit on that. And it's a truly remarkable experience not to have all the conditions that are normal to a human friendship, etc., that we're used to.
Yes.
So those are
Beautiful.
my thoughts on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah, I think the one thing that we can say is the quality of spiritual friendship is it's not transactional. It's not transactional. There's no scorekeeping. You did this for me, I'll do that for you. There's a generosity that just flows naturally when people are connected to the love that they are and share that with each other. So we're going to close. Thank you all so much. We're going to close with a poem of Hafiz about that quality of love. And then we'll have a closing piece of music. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the entire sky.
Friends, you know, they're there in the good times.
Yeah.
And in the bad times. When you're down and troubled and you need some love and care and nothing, no, nothing is going right.
Oh, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there. Right now, even in darkest night, you just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Ooh.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall,
All you have to do is call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. You got a friend.
said again, Diane.
You got a friend.
Sing it, Rick.
If the sky above you
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Robin. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David, our tech guru. And have a wonderful evening, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you all so much for being here. What a pleasure
you.
to be with you.
Bye.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Smiles.